Welcome to the Kosher Wine Podcast, episode 18.
Our Chai
Hi,
episode. And what a
hi.
special guest, the legendary Amichai Lourie of Shiloh Winery. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's been we've been trying to get you on, but you're such a hard worker, a workaholic, I think some may say that you're hard to pin down. But
And
it's such an honor to have you here. Shiloh Winery, a little background, was founded, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was founded I think in 2005 by
yes,
Dr. Meir Shomer, who's, I think still the owner, as I believe.
yes, he is. Yes, he is.
You'll tell us more about this, but brought in Amichai very early on, or maybe right, you were the original winemaker.
Yes,
You'll
yeah.
tell us.
He had like
Well,
maybe a couple of months.
I wanted to just say, as a little more background, Shiloh, and I've been lucky enough to visit, is really, and I know you've said this, is kind of like a prophecy coming true in the land of Eretz Yisrael. It's really a beautiful place, and we're very honored to have you.
Well,
But But why don't you
yeah.
tell us a little bit about that, how that came about, how you went from a contractor to a winemaker, and how that happened?
So I made wine at home for a couple of years. It's because my wife and I we like to do things on our own. Grow our own vegetables. I don't think I ate matzah that I didn't bake for maybe 33 years already. And making wine was also something that we always wanted to do on our own. So my wife and I decided that we're going to make our own wine. And when you have a hobby, you take things to the extreme. So boy, did we take it to the extreme those years that we made the wine at home. And we did like a wine event at my house with some wine critics from Israel and some other wine producers from the area. This must have been in 2004, I think, 2005. And Meir, that just opened up the winery, didn't even harvest yet anything, just opened up the winery in Shiloh, was at the dinner, tasted the wines that we made at home together with a lot of other wines and wine critics. We had a great dinner. It was an amazing evening. And he said to me, why don't you turn your hobby into a profession? And I thought, wow, okay, that's cool. I'll continue doing what I'm doing. And I just broke my wrist and my arm. So I said, you know what? Let's make wine while I'm doing everything else. And I didn't understand that it's literally like quicksand. Once you get sucked into it, then that's it. And obviously, I had to stop everything else I was doing because making wine in a larger scale is like overwhelming. And we started small, about 40,000 bottles a year. Now we're close to 500,000 bottles a year.
Wow.
This year we're down actually because of the war, but um,
How did you make that transition from making wine in your house? Who helped you in that early stages? Like, were there other winemakers
so
close with?
when you make one when you do something as a hobby, you take things to the extreme. So for years at home, we would experiment in things that were a lot of things were unconventional, but when we saw the results and we were getting these amazing reviews from so many people that really know wine, when I started making wine at the winery, so I continued doing things that are a little bit unconventional. I remember we brought in outside experts, to help me out, to taste, to see if everything's going. And I would tell people I'm doing something like this. I said, nobody does it like that. So, okay, before you say it's not good, let's just taste the result and see if it's working. And I think that actually, even today, we're doing things that aren't not like everybody else does. And so many years of making wine, and every year we try to do that much better. And I think the drive that when you start something as a hobby and you have to prove yourself to everybody else and you continue with that drive all the way, the results are amazing. And we're surprised time and time again how much there's to learn and how much you can improve. And I think the results speak for themselves. Thank God.
Can you give us an example of something unconventional that you do?
Oh, wow. So there are so many things that from work in the vineyards, okay, that we've been using, for example, natural compost in the vineyards way before it was very common. And it took me a long time, years actually, to slowly convince all the farmers that we're working with that it's worth it. Not just that it makes the wine better, but it also makes the farming that much easier. That's and many other things, doing things in the vineyards different. And I can tell you that still, I don't think there's a year that I don't have many experiments going on of doing things a little bit different in the vineyard and in the vineyards. Like I know, people always say, well, the lower the yield, the better the wine, the more concentrated it is. And I remember on a Sauvignon Blanc, we were trying this and then again, and the results were okay. And then another year, took it more to the extreme, and it was okay. And then I said to the farmer, I told her, listen, you know what? Next year, we're going to do all the way the opposite. We're going to prune it a little bit higher, so the yield will be even higher than the average, and we won't drop any of the fruit. We'll give irrigation from day one until the harvest. We won't stop. We'll take everything all the way to the other side. And since then, our Sauvignon Blanc has been amazing. So I think that sometimes there are advantages of not going by the book, or understanding that a lot of times when you don't go by the book, you get amazing results. So you might as well just try more and more things. And in the vineyards, in the winery, I remember when people were saying that there's a certain way to do pump over, okay? And there's no way you can break the cake unless you do ABC. And we found our own way how to do it. And I remember we had an outside expert come in, and he insisted that there's no way that this is true, but he's not Shomer Shabbos. So I had a ladder that's a little bit further away from the tank so he can climb up and see it without touching anything. And I showed him how I was doing it. He said, boy, you know what? It works, and it works even better. Topping barrels. I mean, we came up with an invention of how to top barrels that much faster, that much easier with one hand, and we can get done that much more than the average worker can do or doing in other places. And probably many other things.
Well, I mean, your new winery, besides being beautiful, is I think a design and efficiency. And I know one of the things that I know you pointed out to me when I was there was the fact that the catwalk above the tanks now allows you to not have to climb ladders, and you can move so much more quickly between the tanks. Because I know that you're well known for having hands-on with everything in the winery.
And it's so much more than that. And, thank God I have some young guys, especially my son, that I already learned that I shouldn't be afraid that an old timer like me should say, what is my dream? Even though it sounds insane, because sometimes it's so much simpler than you think. So, for example, for me as a winemaker, it's extremely important to be on top of every single tank at least once a day during fermentation, because there are subtle things that you can detect only if you're on top of the tank, pumping over or smelling what's going on, feeling the fermentation, and you can make subtle changes or even major changes that you can't do if you bring to the winemaker with a glass to test it in his tasting room or lab. And we got to the point that it's in a way with a catwalk that brings me on top of every single tank very easily. But not just that, I don't need a person to help me. I mean, it's okay, I have an easy way to open the tank, and I can change the thing that sprinkles all the wine automatically. So I have everything that can do automatically whatever I want, but I can do it on my own. I have my son put something in my phone. I click, I turn it off, change the pipe, put it on, click, turn it. I don't have to call anybody, don't have to do anything. And then I can mix, I can smell, I can feel it. I have to drop the temperature 2 degrees. No problem. Turn it off for a second, change the temperature. Everything is done on the spot, very easy. You know, I just saw a video, must have been like a month or two ago, of an amazing winemaker. I think David Laziano, the new winemaker at Herzog. I mean, this guy is like off the charts. Amazing. And I saw him saying that they have, what's her name? The winemaker, Elise.
Right.
I forget her name. I'm so bad with the names. You know, I get mixed up with my children too.
We're all getting old. We're all getting old.
We have to get her. We have to get her name. She's also doing amazing work there. And he mentioned that
Alicia Wilbur.
Right, Alicia. So he mentioned in the video that although they bring him wine from the tanks during fermentation to smell, to evaluate, to get decisions, but she goes on top of every single tank because there are things that you can detect only if you're on top of the tank on the spot. And I've been doing this from day one at the winery. And this means even if I harvested all night, because almost all, 99% of the grapes that we harvest are at night. It means I worked all night. Okay, I'll doze off in the car for 20 minutes, get a power nap, and then back at the winery. And it doesn't matter, no matter what, every single day, at least once or twice a day, I'm on top of every single tank. And they're doing it there at Herzog. It's important, you know, only if you do it, you understand how important it is. That means somebody that isn't doing it doesn't understand doesn't know what he's missing, okay? Doesn't know that those subtle little changes and differences can make a big change. Just by seeing the skins, you know, sometimes one of the decisions, or one of the difficult decisions, is when to separate the skins from the wine towards the end of fermentation or after the end of fermentation. Sometimes you just let it soak for another couple of days. Sometimes you even separate the wine from the skins even though the fermentation isn't over. Some of these subtle things you have to see and feel and smell and taste the fermentation from the top of the tank. You know, there's any other way, you're doing too many compromises. And, you know, let's be honest, there's so much really good, amazing kosher wine out there. I mean, it's not like it was 10 years ago, even, for sure, 15 years ago. 10 years ago, you'd go into a wine store, you'd buy 24 different kosher wines. You'd always find a few that are really bad and some that were okay. And some things of prices just didn't match the wine. Today, I mean, you have to work very hard to find a bad wine. I mean, people understand that competition is, in Chazal say, kinat sofrin tarbeh chokhmah, right? The jealousy between scholars brings a lot of wisdom. So I said the jealousy between all the kosher wine out there now makes me want to improve even on this tiny little things because like somebody says to me, you saw it was we we're actually now able to automatically pump over the tanks, even to the point like my son hooked something up that I can even decide that during a certain part of the fermentation, I don't want to mix it once every couple of hours for 15 minutes or whatever it was, like the Shabbos clock did, all these timers. Now the timers are, everything is digital. So I can decide that once an hour, once every hour for 30 seconds, it's going to pump over, just wet the cap. And once every 2, 3 hours, it'll give it a 5 or 6 minute cycle. This has nothing to do with me also manually doing this and smelling and feeling. But these subtle little things, do they make a big difference? Probably not a big difference. But those tiny little differences today are much more important than they were years ago. And the reason is when you have such competition, then you want to be that much better, right? If somebody saw me doing cold stabilization for a wine and very quick, or I have a sophisticated way to have produce my own nitrogen in the wine. That means I can, before I move any wine at the winery, I can fill all the pumps, all the tank, everything with nitrogen, and that way I can prevent oxidation even on the mildest level, especially when it's sensitive times. Does it make a big difference? Probably not. But does it make a difference? It sure does. And these little things, I think, are extremely important. It's so important that we're always looking. Okay, what are we going to improve this year? What are we going to focus on this year? What are we going to do a little bit crazier? So
Well,
we did this.
I'll disagree that it's hard to find bad wine. There's plenty of there's plenty of bad wine. I think there's plenty of bad wine. That was the only thing I
It's not
disagree
what it was. You have to admit one thing. It's not what it was 10 years ago. I
with.
mean,
Right.
10 years ago, if
Yeah.
you spent $30 10 years ago, maybe 5 or even 8 out of 10 weren't worth the $30.
Do
Okay.
you find something I hear all the time recently, because I know there's international studies showing this. Do you find that in the younger generation, people are buying less wine, drinking less wine? Do you see that? I mean, look at your winery. You've multiplied, thank God, tremendously. So you obviously don't see that, I guess, on a personal level, but do you hear that? Do you believe there's truth in that?
You know,
And the
the,
follow-up question would you see that, let's say Israel versus America, like or elsewhere in the world?
sometimes it's also, you hear it a lot in politics, but a lot of times um, the noise is not the truth.
Mm.
Okay, because the noise is what's interesting. So you make a lot of noise about something, but honestly, that's very, very far away. And I think this is a perfect example. Like, people are buying less wine. So I don't know. I don't see it. My colleagues for sure don't see it. I don't say that there aren't times where, the average person would buy for Shabbos a wine for $40, and now things are a little bit difficult, so he's buying for 30. Okay, these are ups and downs, economy, it always happens. But people that are buying less wine, or now, oh, buy a wine that doesn't have alcohol in it, or drink, it doesn't match the numbers, let's be honest, but it's something to talk about, and people are looking to talk about something. Oh, it's a great idea. Some guy starts talking about it. More people talk about it, but is it backed with truth? There's no news. If a dog bites a person, it's not really news. But if a person bites a dog, then there's a lot to talk about. But how many times does that happen? It doesn't happen a lot.
I love to just double down on that question for a moment. From what I understand, 80% of Israeli wine is sold in Israel. That people think that a lot of it is exported, but not as much as people think. How has this year affected your wine and the wine sales, being that most of your
Well,
wine, I'm assuming, is sold in Israel?
for us, we more or less split it in the middle. It means we give half export and half in Israel, which means nobody's happy. Because our distributor in Israel wants all our wine, and our distributors outside of Israel want that much more. So we have to decide, and we're very careful not to grow too quickly because I still feel I have to be hands-on. I still want to taste every barrel. I want to be in charge of every blend. I want to be at every single harvest from top to bottom. So we're growing gradually. And I don't see numbers going down. I actually see that the demand is even higher, okay, in general. Don't forget that there's also a shortage because Shemitah was much less, or we made just a little bit of a Heter Mechira, but we made much less. So we're out of a lot of wines, and the market, even in Israel and outside, are waiting for the 2023 to be bottled. We're going to have to get our shelf space back. So that's in general. But the war itself had a tremendous impact on everything. So first of all, let's not forget that hundreds of thousands of people are on the front lines. When you're on the front lines, or if your wife is at home, you're not drinking wine. So there's no tourism, almost close to nothing. Your average customer that you were talking about, that age, are either in Gaza, in Lebanon, or anywhere else, working very hard. And by the time they get home, very rarely, you're not drinking that much. And so there is an impact. But in general, because the demand is higher and higher, so we're okay. I mean, we're still out of a lot of our wines. But it's challenging. It's challenging also because this vintage, this current vintage that just ended, the vintage of Chagei Tishrei, from August till October. So unfortunately, we were supposed to make much more wine, but because a lot of our farmers have been on the front lines this past year, so they didn't tend to their vineyards. You don't tend to your vineyards, there are no grapes. I mean, I have vineyards that we didn't even harvest, not even one grape. Because listen, the guy's in Miluim, he had nobody to do the work properly. All you need is to miss a couple of times that you had to spray preventive measures or something, and I don't know, something happens and you're done. There are no grapes. I had vineyards that the guy couldn't come and even water his vineyards, and it was a relatively new vineyard. It was supposed to be the first harvest this year. No water in time. That's it. There's no fruit. So we're down like, I'm trying to lie to myself and to say 30%, but the numbers are closer to 40% down in the harvest year. That's a major blow, because don't forget we're in a new facility and I have to make that much more to cover it. So I'm not embarrassed to say the hard truth is that the 24 vintage, although it was amazing in quality, like for me, it's like the legendary 2017 that was for us. I mean, it's like amazing quality. That said, but we're close to 40% down. That's a big thing, big problem. Last year's harvest, 2023, actually the war hit us when we still had over 150 tons of grapes still on the vines. And it was very Simchat Torah. By 7 a.m. on Simchat Torah, not that I knew any of this, right? Because it was Chag for me and I didn't speak to my guys, except for I saw the guys that live in Ma'ale Levona that work at the winery. By 7 a.m., before 7 a.m., everybody was called up. So I was left at the winery, two people to run a business that takes over a dozen. So it took us weeks to finally get the grapes off the vines, because don't forget also our farmers, everybody was in Miluim, and it was really insane. And so it was harvesting. I was the kid in the vineyard. So it was me, and everybody else I think was 10 to 20 years older than me, if not more. So it took us a long time to get the grapes off the vines. Some of them, of our vineyards that were left for the end, were literally on the border of Lebanon. That means before the war started, when I was in the vineyard, you can literally see the Hezbollah on the other side of the border. It's that close. And when we were harvesting there, finally the army let us in. A lot of stories that we can't tell over the web, but missiles were going back and forth, and we're in the middle. The ground is shaking all around us, and we have the machine harvester, and usually you have to bump it a few times to go from the bin into the tractor. We didn't have to do it because everything was shaking anyways. Now that I think of what we did, it was totally insane. I mean, the army afterwards closed the whole place. It's closed until now. Nobody's there in that area until today. I mean, so it was then nobody really understood how insane everything was. So we were able to harvest most of our grapes. Some of them we couldn't. We have a vineyard that like 12 or 13 rows. I literally saw how tanks went boom right through them and crushed them all. And also a lot of insane stories about that we can tell not over the web. And so when we're left to harvest our biggest harvest ever, but with fraction and a skeleton crew, was insane. So there's a price to pay. And first of all, because I got to do things a little bit later than usual. So instead of we like to say that at the winery in Shiloh Winery, the pyramid is upside down, which means the better the wine, the more we have of it. So 2023 was the other way around, like every other winery in the world. That means you have your entry level, and then it slowly goes up to your peak. So 2023, although we made a lot of grapes, a lot of wine, but it was a regular pyramid because we didn't want to compromise on quality price ratio. If you deserve to be in the secret reserve, you're there. If not, you get bumped down. You deserve to be in the mosaic, you're there. If not, you get bumped down. It was extremely challenging. There were wines that I usually get into the barrels by November, and some of them got into barrels only by January. So there's a price to pay. It was very crazy. I can tell you a story. You know, we have a truck driver that we've been working with for forever. The guy lives in Netivot. Netivot was under fire from the beginning of the war too. And the harvest, I had a harvest way up north, literally on the border of Lebanon, all the way. I mean, and I call him up. I said, finally, the army gave us the okay to go in and harvest. So he leaves Netivot, and we're supposed to harvest that night. He gets all the way there. I get there. We want to go in. The army says, no. They just took out a car, a missile came. It was right next to the vineyard. We can't let you in. So he drove all the way back. And then a couple of days later, they said, let us in. Again, he was halfway there. You have to understand, Netivot is way down south. Lebanon is way up north. We're talking about a good 5-hour drive for him. This time I caught him in the middle, where they said to me, no, sent them back. And then finally, on the third time that we were there, we harvested first light instead of all night. And then they let us in. We harvested. We brought the grapes, got back to the winery. We get back to the winery. He backs up with his truck, and he's a very nice guy. Sometimes he takes the forklift and he helps us unload the thing. So he's unloading the grapes and putting it in our new, we have a, Baruch Hashem, we're in a new facility. Everything is much easier. He's putting everything ready next to the destemmer. He already knows our thing. And he looks at me and says, "Where's everybody?" I said to me, "What do you mean, where's everybody? It's me, you, the lamppost, and another guy. I mean, it's not everybody's in there." I said, "Are you insane? You have 60 tons of grapes. How are you going to do this alone? It's not going to happen." So he ended up staying there the whole day. And I said, the guy was up for forever, okay? He ended up staying there working with me the whole day, okay? It's not his job. He's a truck driver. I mean, he has to go back to sleep. No, he ended up working with me the whole day, me and my two other guys, doing the work of 12 people. And at the end, he went into the truck at the end of the day, slept. He has like a bed in back of his truck, slept for an hour or two, and then went home. At the end of the month, I speak to my accountant to go over the bills very quickly. I don't have a lot of time. I see the bill that I got from him for the past, all this work that he did the last one, something looks off. Like it should be like twice the price. Something here's wrong. I go over the things. I said, wait a second. He came twice. I schlepped him to the place and didn't go back. He didn't charge me anything. And the day's work, I told him that I'd pay him for the day. It's a full day. I mean, it's his business, you know. I said, hey, do me a favor. Call him up and tell him, I apologize, but you made a mistake. You forgot to charge me for these three things. She comes back. I'm in the middle of mixing a tank or something, and she climbs up to the catwalk. He says to me, I don't know what to say. He got very angry. He said to me, if Amichai wants to pay me for when I do him a favor, then I'm not going to work with him anymore. What do you mean? I see a fellow Yid is struggling. I'm not going to help him. You're going to pay me for helping him? What's wrong with it? Big fight, but Baruch Hashem, these should be our fights, and it just shows you how people were, things that you didn't expect, how people were helping, Am Yisrael. I just say, thank God, it's the first time we moved into our new facility at the beginning of the war. If I had to do what we did with the skeleton crew in the old facility, it would have never happened, because thank God, not a lot of things are automated and everything is more sophisticated, and I don't have ladders and I can do things from remote. So I could get that much more done with so many less people. So Baruch Hashem, the challenges were insane. And but Baruch Hashem, we're able to do it. And I don't know how to say this, but people don't, the insane stress that while you're doing this insane work, the toughest time of the year, okay, an insane responsibility and challenge that there is of making wine on a normal year. And can you imagine to do that when all your workers are in Gaza? Okay. Second day, one of your farmers, which is a Bov Yosef Ran, was the founder and commander of the special mobile unit in Duvdevan. And he was killed on the second day of the war. This is a farmer that he popped by Motzei Yom Kippur to help us harvest at his family's farm, which is our main farm. And word is coming in of so many people that I know, friends, sons of good friends of mine that were killed, and the word is coming in, and you have to continue doing what you're doing when you know that you're very close family, my nephews, my cousins, my son-in-law, all the workers at the winery, that some of them I literally know are my neighbors, that I saw them. I was at their bris, okay? I mean, they're my children's age, and I know their family, they're my neighbors. These three of the people that work with me are my children's age. I know when they were born. I saw them their whole life, and I know that they're now in Gaza doing the craziest things. And you have to keep everything in motion. It's insane times, you know. Yesterday was a good friend of mine. His son was killed exactly a year ago. Yesterday, the Askara was yesterday. And after the funeral, they came to the winery. They were there all day. I was like, it was like, can you imagine the insane feeling when a father comes to me afterwards and gives me a hug and says to me, thank you? I was like you think that you know, they say en davar shalem milev shavur, right? It's a Chassidish saying, right? There's nothing whole or more complete than a broken heart. Boy, I don't believe in that anymore. Not just that your heart was broken so many times, it's just you can't even see the pieces anymore. Like these little things that happen, these times are so challenging. And on the other side, you see all these, how people are stopping everything that they're doing in their life and just doing so much to support and help Israel. It's like for a person like me, and I see just spoke to gay boxer. Okay? The guy literally dropped everything he was doing and doing everything just to help Israel. Okay? One Israel Fund and everything that they're doing. Amazing organization. I mean, the things that they did in the past year and a half are like unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like, and most of the things we can't even talk over the web. But I can give you a small example. We came up with an idea. There are like 10 homes that here in Ma'ale Levona, right next to Shiloh. We renovated them for planning for when people come to the community to see the community, to have a place to rent out until they decide if they want to live here or not. So it was almost complete. And One Israel Fund, this project with a lot of good friends, in no time, we finished renovating it, furnished the whole thing from top to bottom, so displaced families can have a place to stay. This place we thought would be for people that have lost everything to have a place to stay, but it turned to be like almost like, you know, in and out, because people would come, stay a couple of months, they got on their feet, they moved on. You have enough homes now renovated so people can come from up north, down south, or whatever, just to come, spend a couple of weeks, get back on your feet and go out. So we thought it would be people would come, live here until the end and go back. And it's turned into something completely different with 100% support and help of a lot of money from One Israel Fund. And amazing, you know, all these people that stopped everything just to help, you know, people that it's unbelievable. And when you say Kol Israel Chaverim, it's like there were so many communities here. It's insane, but the army, unfortunately, didn't really help the first response units in all the communities all over, especially here, but everywhere. Like you saw, the reason that they got so far around Gaza because there was nobody to fight back because people didn't have it. Like years ago, people that were first response in every community, and they were fully equipped and fully prepared. But the army didn't want this, and they were taking away weapons, and the people didn't have anything. And so many communities, especially around here, when it was like unknown where we are, who knows, is Hezbollah going to enter the day after it started in Gaza? Yes or no? Here, was it going to be a whole big thing? Yes or no? No, there wasn't normal equipment, zero night vision equipment in so many communities. And I called up relatives of mine in the States. And I said to him, ABC we need. It's urgent. And before you know it, I thought it would take time. Like in no time, it was bought, put on an airplane, and here, in no time. Did you see how fast the community in Boca, the Frying Goldberger's community there, how fast they got together, so much help for people here in Israel. It's like in no time, everybody was supporting everybody. And Chazal say if two people walk in the desert, one person has in his bag bread, food, the other one doesn't. They both went into the desert the same way with a full stomach. Who gets hungrier first? The guy that has nothing will be hungry much faster than the guy that knows, I don't have to worry, I have something just in case if I need it. The feeling of the hakarat hatov, of the attitude of gratitude that I personally have for the unbelievable support from so many people here in Eretz Yisrael, people helping each other, and the people that helped us from out of Israel, it's unbelievable. I'll tell you something, you're not going to believe this. We have one of our hechshers at the winery is Harav Ba'abad Partikov, a Haredi Rav, old Harav Ba'abad, lives in Brooklyn. So the day after the war started was still Yontif for you, right? Because you do 2 days Yontif. The day after, he calls me up. I was in the middle, it's insane here what's going on. I barely had a few seconds to talk to him. I said, thank you for calling. I don't have time. I'm in the middle. And then he calls me a few days later again and again until he got to talk to me for a few minutes. I was on my way to back from a harvest in the middle of the night. For him today, spoke to him. I lost the time has got all mixed up for me until today. Must have been like a couple of weeks later. He shows up at the winery with his son. I mean, the guy must be 80 years old, plus minus, I don't know. Okay. Shows up with his son without even telling me, shows up at the winery. I mean, nobody's moving anywhere, nobody's doing anything, right? Everybody's scared. And the guy hops on a plane, this Rav, from Brooklyn, comes with his son to Eretz Yisrael. I said, where did you come from? I spoke to you on the phone. I heard I heard you. I had to come. It's like, and when he saw what was going on, and I didn't even have, even when he was there, I didn't have that much time uh, to be with him or to give my attention to him or anything. And he's offering to help me at the winery. I mean, it's like, can you imagine the feeling of all these people that every now and then people call you up out of the blue and what's going on? And it's amazing, you know. It's like I think it's important that
Wow.
people know how grateful that we are that yeah.
We always we always say that one of the most beautiful ways that we can connect to the land as Jews of the diaspora is buying Israeli wine. After listening to you now, I feel like this harvest that's coming out now, it's going to be the most cherished, the most cherished to connect not only to the land, but the difficulties and the challenges and what it took to put out these bottles of wine that are coming out right now is unbelievable.
uh, we just read Kol Dmei Achicha Zoakim Elecha Me'adama. So many things that you stumble upon on that. There's from Jews have a forced break once a week, right? So even in difficult times when our head is completely away, but sometimes you have to force yourself to understand the Shabbos. And then you have no choice but to pick up a book because you're not going to use your phone, or you're not going to watch television, or you're not going to work, right? So and then even the simplest things in Parashat Shavua or Haftarah, that book that you're actually reading now, things have different meanings. Um, things get new meanings, there's always something new, and you can always see things you never saw before. And Baruch Hashem, and this isn't a Jewish saying, but I love it. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. So we're tough as nails. I mean, not always, but we're tough as nails.
I think
Yes.
it's easy to, I think in a world where I feels you see it, each generation in many ways gets worse. I see the opposite in the nation of Israel. And this generation, incredible sacrifice of this generation, the young generation, it's it's incredible. And I speaking as someone who is American by birth and have lived my whole life here, the exception of yeshiva, I I think that the outpouring of love and support that Israelis, I hope, have felt from Chutz La'aretz is, it's just because we feel helpless to our brothers and sisters, and
Yeah.
anything we can do. Um, and that's in our small part on this podcast, and as wine drinkers, is in every way we can support the wine industry. It's something, and it's enjoyable to do. It's not hard to do.
Yeah. You're helping and enjoying yourself at the same time.
Right. It's a nice way to help.
You see
But also to, and I tell everyone now that your new beautiful center is open, go visit and bring your friends and your family. It's incredible, and and you are supporting Eretz Yisrael in that way also. But
I'll tell you something else. When we started building the winery, we moved into the winery August last year for the harvest. Last minute moved in. So about when we started building the new facility 2.5 years ago, approximately, People were coming to visit and see how the construction is going. And wherever you walked, whatever you did, you only saw Jewish labor. People say to me, "What are you, crazy? Uh, don't you want to hire cheap Arab labor from contractors here, there, whatever?" And I said, "Listen, I know people are putting their heads in the ground, but you have to understand, all over Israel, Arab workers come and work. They're done working, they get paid, but they also get paid again by selling information to terrorist organizations." "What? You're exaggerating." I said, "Listen, I didn't invent this. It's a known fact. For every single day, they come back and they say, that family has a car. That family has a dog. He carries a gun. She doesn't. In this area, there's nobody between that and that hour. It's empty. There's more security. They have a safe room." And people saying to me, "You're insane. You're exaggerating. You don't want peace." I said, "It doesn't have anything to do with it. It's being realistic. You do not let a wild animal in your house if you know that if he's not going to kill you now, he's planning on killing you later. You're exaggerating. You know what we're talking about." And then the war started. And they knew every little detail all the way to Sderot and all the way to Yerucham and all the way to Ofakim, and not just in the kibbutzim and moshavim. They knew everything all over. And they know exactly where to send a missile from Lebanon. They know exactly where there are army units and everything because they're selling us out. And I must have gotten, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of phone calls and WhatsApp messages from friends and family of people telling me, "You remember that we laughed at you when we came to visit? Look what happened." And another thing came out. And still, until today, they're finding detailed information of kibbutzim up north in Lebanon. They see all of this. And people are still blind. People are trying to, no, they wanted peace. If you want peace, you don't plan so much war. You don't make tunnels that are meant to kill Jews. They've done things that in the Holocaust they didn't do. Okay, but my friends and family had to see and do some of them, the first couple of weeks in the kibbutzim near there. You can't erase that from. These things are like, find me one Chassid Umot Olam in Lebanon or in Gaza, one that helped. No, they were all cheering and helping, and people were flowing into Israel just to do another little thing. It's like there was nobody there that tried to help. Everything was planned, and we were just completely blind. And you know what? Yes, again, avodah ivrit, to do only Jewish labor, and to plant another vineyard. Listen, I came to the States in February.
I
Okay,
wanted
I
to talk
didn't.
about
I'm
this.
trapped. What?
I wanted to mention this, that
What the
that
protests that they
when
did?
we went to that event in February in New Jersey, and we were greeted on both sides by people screaming, and finding out that why were they screaming? Amichai Lourie was there.
And you saw they spent maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars to publish boycotting Shiloh, boycotting Amichai Lourie. I got threats. I still get threats to my life on my phone, on my email. It's not spam. It's like threatening me. I stole land. I'm doing that.
Why do you think, why are you chosen? Because there's so many other Israeli wineries. Why did they pick you?
Well, maybe because we just built a new winery and it's near an extremely wealthy Arab community, is not far from there. And they have money to spread lies. And people say to me, "Did you really steal the land?" And we're gathering around me, a group of guys, and you could see that like most of them were on the left side, okay, And some of them were saying, maybe the protesters have something. If you really stole the land in your winery, the new winery is on Arab land. I said, listen, first of all, I bought and paid for the land. I paid the government, and then I paid Misrad Kalkala for the, because it's an industrial zone. And then I paid for that. Everything was paid from top to bottom. But I said, you know what? Listen, they said I stole land. And, I really feel bad for them. So, you know what? By next time when I come back to New Jersey for a wine event, I'll try to do better and steal a little bit of Arab land so that at least they won't come out as liars,
But you don't have to
Right.
go far in Jersey. I think also, I think part of it,
Phoenix.
I think part of it is that you are a well-known face. You're a well-known face. You're because you're such a hard worker and because you're constantly, if you're not in your winery, you're promoting your wine and you're a well-known face. I think you're an easy target on that level.
No, you know what? I welcome the target. Let them do what they're doing, and I'll do what I'm doing. And there's a saying, "Od bait ve'od etz." That means we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere, right? We're not going anywhere.
Kenny and I are convinced that there's like 4 or 5 doppelgangers of you because you're everywhere. There's no way that you can be in so many places at once.
Yeah, I have a twin or a clone. Yeah. That reminds me, I have twin cousins. Okay. One of them is literally on the front line and he's in his 40s already. From day one, zero, almost no time at home with him. Okay. Amazing things what he's doing. He dedicated his life to the safety of Eretz Yisrael. Okay. And his twin brother, they're both commanders in the tanks, Shirion. Okay. One of them that's been there from day one until today is very high up. And the other one, when they expelled the Jews from Gush Katif, he was in the army as a commander, he's in his keva, he signed up and he's in the army theoretically forever. And he sent a letter to his commander. No fuss, no internet, no nothing. Very quietly said, listen, I live wherever I live. We're not going to mention places. He said, listen, the people that live in Gush Katif are my family, and I can't expel them. So if you want me to be part of the expelling the things as commander of a tank, I mean, I'm here for war. I'm here to defend. I'm not here to expel Jews. So I'm not going to make a big fuss. Just put me somewhere else because I'm not going to do it. They court-martialed him and expelled him from the army with disgrace. Okay? And he's been out of the army since. They wouldn't call him up for nothing. And this is a guy that we need him. Okay? Now, you want to know how badly we need him? The war started. I don't know if you saw this amazing thing that we didn't have any tanks. We didn't have enough because we said, we're going to be small and smart army, as if we have no enemies. Sold tanks to everybody and left with only junkyards and very little tanks. So he volunteered. They still didn't call him up, okay? He volunteered with a bunch of his guys, old timers, okay? People that are much older than him too, to go around to junkyards, of the army's junkyards, refit old tanks that haven't been used for many years so we can bring them back into action. It was called Ofachol, okay? Project Ofachol. Look it up. It's on social media. They took these old tanks, in no time, brought them back to life and put them to work. The army saw what he did, and the army became so desperate that they need officers. Obviously, they took him in. You know what he's doing? He is now in the main unit that trains combat people that are in the tanks to be officers. So he's an officer training people to be officers. I mean, now you call me back, you kicked me out of the army in disgrace, okay? I volunteered, I refitted with my guys, no family, no nothing for months when the army didn't hire them because the army said there's no way you're going to be able to do it because it's an insane project. Nobody can do this. And they proved them wrong and they brought everything back to life again. Okay. And now they realize, okay, we need you back. Okay. He's still theoretically expelled in disgrace. It's like,
Wow.
it's like sometimes we're doing it to ourselves. I mean, really?
Well, they didn't. I guess he's there, so the end result is, thank God.
Baruch Hashem.
I'm going to switch gears with you because I know we can't keep you forever, but I'm very excited. Talk about the Pinot Noir.
Oh, yeah. I actually had a good friend. He's a big, big maven of Pinot Noir. He has an enormous collection here in Israel of mainly non-kosher Pinot Noir. And I can tell you that since last time you were here, it got much better even than we expected. And if I had my doubts if we're going to bottle our first Pinot Noir, then there are no doubts. Bezrat Hashem, probably in about 6 months, we'll bottle our first Pinot Noir. And it's been a long journey because, everybody needs a challenge, and I need challenges that are now immediately. I want to see the results, etc. But some of the challenges take a long time. And after playing around with Pinot Noir from a bunch of different vineyards from all around Israel, and after the last time that we just did on the 2023 vintage, I think I learned a lot, enough to decide how I'm going to do even much better than the one that you tasted. And we, Baruch Hashem, planted a vineyard probably in the ideal best location possible in Shiloh, coming out of the breeze coming out of the valley of Shiloh on a northern slope, like a dream come true for any winemaker. And Bezrat Hashem, in about 5 years from now, once we harvest the new vineyard, it will be even that much better. We harvested this vineyard with Ira Rappaport and his son, Yisroel Rappaport. Ira Rappaport is an amazing, amazing guy. Okay, he's also a tour guide. I think he's 70-something years old. He's the first person that planted. Listen to this, listen to Schut, it gives you the chill. It gives me the chills even to mention it again, even though I said this so many times. He's the first Yid to plant vines in the Shiloh region, in the Shomron, Binyamin region, since the Galut. So when the Navi says, "Od tit'i kramim beharei Shomron nat'u not'im v'chilelu," okay, the Navi was thinking about Ira Rappaport. Now, can you imagine the privilege and that I felt to come with my grandchildren to help him plant a Pinot Noir vineyard next to those vineyards that he planted? I don't know, must have been like 20 years ago, 20-something years ago, the first vines in the Shomron. So hopefully, Bezrat Hashem, it'll be also amazing wine. And then he takes me when we're done planting the vineyard, and we're climbing a mountain on a little bit higher to the north. Okay, we're climbing up like this. He's taking me through rocks, through this. It's all no man touched it for over 2,000 years until he came, and he shows me an ancient wine press that they found also ceramic leftovers there that dates back almost 3,000 years. We're talking about till the time of Yoshua bin Nun and Mishkan Shiloh. So when people came for 369 years, year after year, to do Korban Pesach in the area there, and can you imagine the quantity of wine that you needed in the region in those days? And that's why you can find so many ancient wine presses all around that date back thousands of years. But this is one of the oldest ones ever. So you're planting a vineyard, Pinot Noir in the ideal place ever, with a person that's the first one that planted vineyards in the Shomron since Churban Bet HaMikdash. And it's a walking distance from a wine press that probably, if not Yoshua bin Nun, then Eli Cohen made wine there. You imagine that, and then people say from the river to the sea. I mean,
this is why I love.
What's wrong with you?
This is why I love wine so much, because there's no way to connect to Jewish history, to the land, we honor Hashem with wine. Like there's absolutely to be a Jew, the wine experience and listening to you, it just reminds me of how incredible it is to live in this time and to live in a time where we can plant vineyard.
Let me give you a little tip. Amen. Amen fast. Yeah. I'll give you a little thing to take home with you. Okay. I try to tell people that there's actually only once a year where if you don't drink Israeli wine, you're a hypocrite. Why? Because only once a year you really have to say bracha me'en shalosh after drinking wine. Because every time it can be part of a Suda or whatever, but there's only once a year that you have no choice, that you have to drink the Revi'it and you have to say bracha achrona. When is that? Once a time a year? The fourth glass of Leil HaSeder. So why are you a hypocrite if you don't drink Israeli wine? Because it says in bracha me'en shalosh, at the end we say, Ve'al eretz tova urechava, right? The land, the good land, the wide land, sheratzita v'inchalta la'avotenu, that you gave it to our ancestors, Parshat Shavua now, right? Okay, gives you the chills. Ve'al eretz tova urechava, sheratzita v'inchalta la'avotenu le'echol mipirya, that you eat from its fruit. Right? So at the end of the bracha, you can decide to say ve'al perot or al perotea, if it's from Israel, if it's not from Israel. But the middle of the bracha always stands. So if you're drinking wine from Italy, from France, from I don't know where, okay, and you're saying ve'al eretz tova urechava sheratzita v'inchalta la'avotenu le'echol mipirya, from its fruit, I mean, Kadosh Baruch Hu is just telling you what to do. You're grateful for what Kadosh Baruch Hu is giving you, but you're not taking it from the land that has the blessing. Makes no sense. I say that maybe we should have a minhag, okay? Like my father-in-law, Zichrono Livracha, according to Shulchan Aruch, Sfaradim, how does Birkat HaMazon end? For Ashkenazim, how does Birkat HaMazon end? Hashem ozemoiten, Hashem varech tamo v'shalom, gesundheit, we're done. Now, Sfaradim are very makpid, okay? A lot of them, or maybe old-timers, I don't know, that Birkat HaMazon ends with Baruch Atah Hashem borei pri Elokeinu melech olam borei pri hagafen and bracha achrona. Like, I remember my father-in-law having a tiny little revi'it to the shiur, it's a minimum because he wants to drink at the end of Birkat HaMazon a revi'it yain and say bracha achrona. So I said like this, I have an idea, let's spread the word. Every Motzei Shabbos we do Havdalah, right? Let's do Havdalah with Israeli wine. Let's drink Revi'it. And let's have a little bit of kavana now more than ever, and say bracha achrona, ועל ארץ טובה ורחבה, שרצית והנחת על אבותינו לאכול מפריה. And let's have the attitude of gratitude. We'll drink Israeli wine, Motzei Shabbos, make Havdalah, drink a Revi'it. If you don't want to get drunk, take a little Revi'it. You can measure it. And let's be grateful that we're here. I mean, that we're here in Eretz Yisrael.
I think it's a wonderful tradition. I think it's a really
Maybe
great.
it'll be as strong as the RCC.
It's a really,
Now that's a revolution, right?
yeah.
Mr. Horowitz made a big revolution in kosher wine with the RCC. Let's make another revolution of bracha achrona of Havdalah every Shabbos in every Jewish home.
Wow.
You know what just happened?
What just
You
happened?
know, it says, we say at the end, Pitum Aktoret. It says, the Braita says, Hakol Yafel Absamim. What's Hakol Yafel Absamim? There are a few different reasons, you know, either when you talk, then it makes it a little bit damp, so it's good for the Bsamim, or because Hakol Yafel Absamim, it's the rhythm, right, of when you make the Bsamim. But the other part of the Braita says in certain Kitvei Yad, Hakol Yafel Absamim, Hashtika Yafa Layayin. That wine needs silence. So people have asked me many times, you know, if I'm the wine, you know, if there's Daf Yomi wine, they always say, can you come and tell you what you think? So, Hashtika Yafa Layayin, I like to see that first of all, it is when you drink a really good wine, then suddenly there's silence in the room. Or what we just did now, we said something interesting about wine, suddenly all of us just were quiet for a few seconds because wine sometimes puts you in the zone where you have to stop for a second. And that's what just happened.
Amichai, you have a special honor to have the record of our longest episode ever. We're going to call
Oy
this
vey.
now the Kosher Wine Podcast Experience because it's going into 3 hours.
Oy, really?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I could keep you here for another 2 to 3 hours because I have so many questions, but it's really been special to have you here. That was, I feel emotional now after listening to you. And I think the bracha for your winery is because of the way you run it and because of your connection to the Torah and to Hashem. And that's why you should continue to have bracha in your winery.
And look at the vision of the founder, Dr. Meir Shulman. He came to Israel years ago, roamed the country, had a dream, and said, no, I'm going to do it in Shiloh. Why? Because this is where everything started. This is where our history started. This is where Am Yisrael started, the Eretz Yisrael started from here. This is where I wanted to, like, almost 20 years ago.
Incredible.
Somebody comes out of nowhere. This is his dream.
Obviously a visionary
Amazing.
to hire a guy that was just making wine in his house and then to strike gold with you.
Yeah. I'm saying, you know, sometimes you feel the somebody pushing you in the right direction.
Right,
you know?
right,
So,
right.
So what do
so
you?
Bezrat Hashem, maybe next time we'll do this at the winery. So when the two of you come visit, then we can.
Yes.
Yes,
Amazing.
absolutely. How
You
do
know, we were
people?
supposed to open up the visitor center almost a year ago. Like
Right.
we moved into the winery in August last year, and we
Right.
said we still have some work to do at the visitor center. really was last things, electricity, water, furniture, all kinds of stuff. Some windows that weren't all the way. And we said right after the harvest and after Yontif, everybody comes back from vacation of the contractors because we're doing everything with Jewish labor. We say we have 2-3 weeks left of work. We'll do the grand opening towards maybe the end of November, maybe for Hanukkah, done. But because we did everything with Jewish labor, then we couldn't finish those couple of weeks of work. Ended up dragged out almost a year to actually finish it so we could open the place because every time I needed to do something, we wanted to finish it. He's in Gaza. Oh, they just let us out to Gaza. He came to work, put up something with the windows. The day later, he was called up to Lebanon. The person that was finishing the ceramic tiles was in Gaza until literally a couple of weeks ago.
When I was there in January, and this is 10 months ago, it was so close to being done.
That's what I'm saying. It was close for almost a year. It was like close. Just I had zero hands to do it. It was like impossible.
When did it open?
We opened it for Sukkot. Sukkot we opened.
How do you get there? Like, how do you book an appointment? Like, I feel like as a diaspora Jew, we feel like I don't want to bother you, but I know you want us to come. So how do you do it?
So I'll tell you what we decided like this. Even though most of our customers are in Miluim, and even though people aren't going out as much, and for sure there's much less tourism people coming, and so we decided the place will be open every day from 10 to 5. Tours, wine tastings is always there. I just hired a very nice lady that's taking care of it. So every day from 10 to 5, the place is open for tours and wine tastings. Hopefully soon we'll also have some food next to it. And people can also book events for the evenings. I mean, you want to do something in the evening, you have to schedule in advance. But every day, if you come, the place is open for tours. Please come.
No need to book.
So come. Come and visit. Yeah.
I plan to take you up on it soon. And I can't send people fast enough because it's really a really special, beautiful place.
It's all about stories. I'll tell you a funny story. Right? Maybe a month or two after the war began, this guy knows I like a certain kind of coffee. I'm like a little bit insane when it comes to coffee, right? But there is a kind of coffee.
I'm going to cut you off for a second, and I wanted to say this the whole time. You're a friend now, but I've followed you for years, and the way you handle everything in your life is why your wine is so great. Also, because you're OCD with your food. I noticed that with your coffee when I was there. And I'm the same, which is I have an affinity for you. But I saw when I walked into the winery and I saw the coffee and I was like, I'm in the right place. And I know he's a great chef also. He's not going to say so, but he's a great chef. I see his creations.
Yeah, come to next time you'll have come dinner.
Yeah, I need to come eat there. I get to come eat also. Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
So I had a friend that knows that the friend comes by to the winery. Again, like it's maybe a month and a half into the war. Everything is still totally insane. And he shows up at the winery. He didn't even say anything. He shows up. And he gives me this bag with the coffee that he knows. I said, what? He said, yeah, I came in yesterday. I'm flying back tomorrow. The main reason is to bring you coffee. I'm serious. I'm not joking. This is like, can you believe this? Like, and I didn't even have time to sit with him because like I'm still I didn't finish pressing all the wines, and I didn't fill the barrels. It's like the end of the harvest, but still everything is still fermenting in the winery. It's insane that the guy was in Israel for a little bit over 48 hours. I'm sure I'm not the only person he visited, but the reason that he came was to go buy the coffee that I like, where I know that I like it. So I have also that. Came to Israel. It's like you can't make this up. The stories are so crazy.
Okay,
I'm
what's your
surprised. I'm
favorite coffee
surprised
so
he
I can
wants.
bring it for you?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna say it like this over the web. You know, I don't want everybody coming like that. That's already chutzpah. Yeah.
All right, Amichai, thank you so much, and
Take care. Thank you very much. Baracha v'atzlacha.
amen.
Okay, bye.